Hey, fourth and fifth grade 3D designers. I have been very impressed by the designs that I'm seeing for your bedroom furniture. And I think you guys have all really improved drastically during the time you've worked on your projects and worked on your 3D design skills at home. And I am really impressed. So, good job with the projects you've done so far. Some of you have already designed more than one piece of furniture. And if that's the case, all you need to do today is go back and see if there's anything you can improve or add to those designs. Because the assignment from me is only to design 2 pieces of furniture total. If you've designed more than that already, that's fine. You don't need to delete any of them, but you also don't need to do more unless you want to, because at some point when we are able to get back to our 3D printer, we won't have time to print more than 2 pieces of furniture for each kid, probably. So you don't need to focus on making more than 2 pieces of furniture from your bedroom unless you really want to, because just because we can't print it doesn't mean you can't design it and become a better designer. And maybe you design a third piece of furniture and you end up liking that better than your first or your second, and you choose to print your second and third furniture pieces you've designed eventually when we get to print. So you don't need to do any more than 2 pieces of furniture, but if you would like to, you're welcome to. And I want to give a few more tips and teach a couple more skills today to help you design some of the trickier pieces of furniture in your house. So here we go. Some of you have already learned how to do this last year, and some of you have figured it out on your own this year, because I've seen this skill being used in some of the furniture pieces I've already seen in your design accounts. But in case you haven't figured this out yet, this is a good skill to know if you're designing a piece of furniture that has a lot of empty spaces in it, like a bookcase. There are ways to design a bookcase by putting together lots of little shapes and adding them together to then leave empty spaces between. But there's a handy dandy way to just make a shape into an empty space. And let me show you how. So I already have the main outside shape of my bookcase ready. And now I'm trying to make those empty spaces between all those shelves. Here's one way to do it. You can pull a box out that's a whole, not a solid box. You see how it says it's a whole instead of solid? I could also, just so you know, I could take a solid box or any solid shape and turn it into a hole using this little menu up here. But the box and the cylinder are ones that easily come from the menu already as holes if you want them. But now that I have my box hole shape, what I need to do is to think about how to make that the shape and size that I want the empty space in my bookshelf to be. Just at least generally make a guess. So let's see, my bookcase is 19 millimeters wide. And so let's see, let's make this, oh, just maybe about 14. I don't think it should go all the way through. Some bookcases do have a hole that goes all the way through, but mine doesn't. So let's see, it's about 14 deep. And then how long is my bookshelf? About 77 currently. So let's see what my hole should be. Oh, can't see that. Come here. Let's see, my hole should be maybe 70 or so. That's a pretty good estimate. Bring this back to about 14 or 15. And so that's what I think about the hole in my bookcase is going to be. I'll get to adjust it a little bit more later. But then I'm going to drag this empty spot. I'm going to figure out a good perspective. This might be a nice one from right near the top to then put my hole into my bookcase. And you might say, oh, it's hard to figure out how far it's gone because you can't see it. I'll show you a little trick for that. While you're placing one shape inside of another, whether it's a solid shape or a hole shape, you can turn your other shape into a hole so that you can see through it while you're making this change. So I'm going to take this big outline shape, turn that into a hole, and now I can see through it. Oh my gosh, it's a transparent bookshelf. But that helps me take this little hole shape that I was trying to put in there and put it where I want it to be and kind of see, is that going to be enough of a whole space? I think I might want to make it a little deeper. So this gives me a chance to then drag this. Is it too close to the edges? No, it looks like I have some space on the edges, but I probably want to lift it up a little bit so that my bookcase still has a little bit of a base to sit on the ground. So now I have it in the right place, now I can make this outline back into a solid, and my hole is exactly where I want it to be. And then if all of your shelves have the same size hole, remember that trick we learned last time? You can just take that shape, you can copy it, either that little the little squares in the corner, or a Control C for a shortcut. And then you can paste it with either this clipboard or Control V. And I have another one exactly like it. And now I can lift this one up where I want it. And let's see, maybe a little bit higher. Because let's see, this one is about 1 high, and this one is, oh, sorry, I'm at 6 high, and then this one is 31 high. Yeah, sure, that sounds good for now. I'm just going to turn this solid shape back into a hole shape again so that I can see where I'm putting this inside and see if it's kind of lined up with the one below it. That looks pretty good. Looks a little off center there. Let me scoot that. But I gotta make sure I didn't scoot it backwards by accident. There, that looks pretty good actually. And then I can turn this big one back into a solid, and I have those 2 holes inside. And if you want to see it look more like a bookcase at this point, you can select all of those shapes together, and then you can merge them, and it will cut out those holes for you. And there you go, you have 2 holes in your bookcase. Pretty cool, right? Okay, one other thing I would like you to consider when you're making your second furniture design, or to go back and add to your other designs, especially if you've already finished 2 or more designs, is to make some objects or some details that are part of your furniture or sitting on your furniture that you didn't have the skills to do a couple weeks ago. I'll show you what I mean. So if you have a bookcase, for instance, design the bookcase and group all of the shapes of the bookcase together so that the bookcase becomes one object that is all stuck together. But then think about designing another object that's sitting on your bookcase, like one of your toys or some books or something else that's on your bookcase. So I put some shapes out on my work plane already to put together into another object that I could design fairly quickly so that you guys wouldn't have to watch this video forever. Can you guess what type of toy I'm designing, or a little model I'm designing based on these shapes? It's a snowman. So pretend you have like a snowman stuffy or a snowman toy sitting on your bookcase. Design it separate from your bookcase first. So put together all of your little pieces separately first. Let's see, how tall is this one? Not how tall, there we go, 20. So I want to lift this one a little bit lower than 20 so it sinks in. Look at it from the good perspective, put it right on top like I'm building a snowman. Do you want to build a snowman? Yeah, I did that. Let's see. So then I'm going to get the head going. And let's see. We are at 13 tall. And the other one was how tall? Was 20 tall. So then I'm going to put this one about 30 to 130, somewhere in there. That should be a pretty good height. Let's see, it looks pretty centered, but of course I always need to double check from a different perspective. Oh, I got lucky that time, it did get centered. And then here's my little, my little nose. And remember, if you want to put the nose just sideways on the snowman's face, you can change your work plane. You can drag a new work plane. Come on, work plane. My work plane button's not working right now. Why is it not working? There we go. You can drag a new work plane and put it on the surface that you're trying to add a new shape to, but it won't let you take a shape that's already on the other work plane and just spin it immediately to that side. So if you do that, you would need to get a new shape from the menu, and that will automatically add to that work plane. And then if you want, you can then change the size and whatnot to be right on that snowman's face. But I don't really want to do it that way right now. So I'm going to go back. Remember, this is the little back undo button. That's a good one to remember if you don't. I'm going to put my normal work plane back out here. And I'm just going to take this nose and use the rotate, the little rotate arrows. Whoop, sorry, I'm still getting used to my new mouse here. And rotate it a certain direction. Come here, little rotate symbols. There we go. Do, 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 do. And then I'm going to lift it up, 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 and put it on the face of my snowman. I think I need to rotate it this way too, though. I think I need to go a little higher, huh? That is a gigantic nose. And it's also a levitating nose. So another little reminder to look from different angles. Let's see if I can make my nose a little bit smaller. Make it a more of an appropriate snowman nose. Whoop, that's too skinny. Is that better? That's a little better. It looks more like a bird beak. But I think I'm going to call that good enough so you guys don't have to sit here and watch me this whole time. I'm going to quickly add these arms. Spin them a little bit first. Woo! Stab them into the snowman's sides. Ha! Except it didn't because I need to look at it from a different perspective. Come here, arm, this direction. I'm going to use my arrow keys right now, actually, to adjust it over into my snowman. And make it a little higher. All right, is that arm in my snowman? Yeah, a little bit. Let's use my arrow keys again. And lift a little higher. Ooh, I have an idea. I made another arm, but what if I just made this arm longer and stabbed it through even more? Hey, nice. All right, I'm gonna get rid of this other little one. So now I have my snowman. I should, if I were you, add more details to make it look more like a snowman, like buttons and eyes, and whatever your toy snowman or whatever toy you're making has on it. But then what I wanted to show you is that after you design each toy, you should group the toy on its own. So make sure you drag that little dotted red box around all the shapes that are part of that object. That way they'll all get selected at once, and then you can hit the group button or Control G to group those all together. And then that way you can scale it. You can make it the right size you want to actually be more toy sized. I didn't want to make it that tiny to begin with because that would have been really hard to put all those shapes together when they're that tiny. So I decided to design it and then group it and then change the size. So here's my little snowman. My snowman turned the other direction. Come back, snowman. Yay! There's my little snowman. And then now that it's one object, I can also pick it up and put it on whatever shelf I want. Like maybe I want it right on the top. How tall is my bookcase? 65. So I'm gonna lift him up to 60, maybe 4, and then put him on the bookcase. Nope, it's a little hard to drag without getting, I'm gonna use the arrows instead this time because it's hard to select the right part of the shape to drag it when he's so little like that. There. And then I have a cute little snowman sitting on my shelf. So those are some tips for how to design it bigger and separately before putting it on your shelf. And then once it's all, you've designed all the things that are on your shelf, you don't have to make every single object, just a few maybe. Then you can select everything, Control A, or I could also drag my box over everything and group everything together. That way the printer will recognize it as one object to print. And you won't be able to pick up the toys off of the shelf once it's printed, but it will definitely look more realistic and print all those little details for you. So you don't have to do this with a bookcase, but you can also do this with any other furniture you're designing. So if you're designing your bed, maybe you design one of your favorite stuffed animals that's sitting on your bed. Or if you're designing your chair in your room and you have a nice cozy pillow with some design on it, maybe you put that into your 3D design. So your task this week is just to design a second piece of furniture, if you haven't done that yet, and to go back and add some other little objects or details into your furniture now that you have some more 3D design skills to be able to do that. So best of luck. I'm loving what I'm seeing so far with your designs. You don't need to turn anything in. You don't need to email me anything because I get to log into your accounts with my teacher password and see what you're doing already. So I will be checking in occasionally throughout the week and seeing how you're doing on this, but let me know if you need any help. Bye, good luck.